So the core concept behind intentional design is really to give faculty a different set of guidelines or a different set of tools to help them navigate all of the processes that faculty go through when building a course, because ultimately they are the creative responsibility for their students and their subject area. And there's often also a lot of pressure, either internal or external, to do your entire course plan at once, or to take a text and embed it into your course all in one go. And I think that is often unattainable. Um, I know a lot of faculty who teach one lesson ahead of their students in their prep work. Others spend monumental amounts of time prepping and structuring their class. Um, and it's really not put together with any regard to how to execute the plan. How comfortable are you with teaching and your subject area and all of the things that you're doing as an instructor? So the basics of intentional design really are in the planning process. I like planning processes because organizational details is not really my strength. So if I have like a really minimalistic structure, it helps me to get going. And the planning process that I am introducing in this design course really build upon that foundation of instructional design, learner-centered theories, assessment practices, quality course planning. All of those are elements in this course plan. But I think if we're purposeful and intentional about how we do it, we will come out with something that's actually even better. And that's where intentional design really comes in. As the faculty member, you are the center of your course. You are the one who guides the students through the materials. You're the one who creates the materials. And yet, often faculty don't feel like they have a lot to say, or they're grabbing materials from various sources, but they maybe are not materials that fit you. And I think that you as the faculty member have to start out with being comfortable and confident in your course, in your materials, and how you're presenting. And yes, that's going to adjust and adapt over time, but if you're not confident from the beginning, it's going to be a longer stretch for you. And often this is where we see faculty who are not confident. They end up reverting and spending most of their time letting the publisher textbook teach for them and supplement where their strengths are not. And so intentional design really starts with the faculty member and who they are, what they want to accomplish, and what they bring to the course. And so as an instructor, you really have to be mindful of not just this set of expectations or pressure to deliver, but what you have to offer. You have to give yourself space to plan, and that might be space to think. And so there's a lot of new mindfulness research coming out in the education field. But basically, if you take and give yourself permission to take the time to just think about your class, think through what went well in that lesson, what didn't, what you enjoyed teaching, what you didn't. This is going to give you some valuable insight in how to change or restructure your course. But you have to not make the course solely about the subject matter or the students, but it has to be a little bit about you as the faculty member. And this sort of shift that I think we're seeing from traditional academia is that faculty don't necessarily take prep time. Our prep time is done on the weekends or at nights at home, and we're using our personal time more and more to prep for courses because your office time is spent doing other things. That's a challenge, and it really is upending the structure so that faculty are spending less and less quality time on their courses, and more trying to get them done so they can have a life. Another trend, not trend, but tradition in academia is that faculty are not taught course planning. They are subject area experts. Maybe they've taken a class or two in how to teach, most not, and yet we're sent out and told to go find research or figure it out. And that's a challenge for faculty because you don't know where you're stepping rightly and where you're not. Accreditation and assessment is constantly giving us new standards that we need to report on, pressure from the institution to start delivering materials, and these are not choices that we can make. So often it's perceived that we have to do new things in our classroom that we're not already doing, when in fact most of you are doing accreditation or assessment work in your courses that meet accreditation requirements. It's a matter of how we think about it and structure it in a way that is meaningful and can be reported out. We're also finding a lot of shifts in how institutions run, and those often are creating more and more demands on faculty members' time, more and more things that faculty are having to report out, to do, committees, and those are systems that should be supporting instruction rather than taking away from instruction. And that has created some challenges for faculty. And again, with the tradition of academia, there is this idea that as the faculty member, you alone are in charge of your course. And it really has become a solo, not just siloed, but solo profession, where each faculty member is doing their own thing. And yet, as a profession, education is all about collegiality and connecting with others in our specialty. And yet, when you're in the classroom, when you're preparing your class, when you're utilizing lessons, these are not things that we typically consider. We consider our own selves and our own resources as the best practice. And this is really contrary to open education, as well as intention, because any member, any faculty member worldwide does not have all the skills to think about all of these things, or all the ideas that are possibly out there. And there's no rule that says you have to create or invent a wheel. You have to teach a class, and that might mean pulling from ideas or communicating with others in your profession. An odd effect of non-intentional design and kind of the technical age that we live in is that is creating actually more and more challenges for students. So, for example, in the attempts to help students with new accessibility options, providing all kinds of new access points, giving them not just one text, but a whole variety that they can search through. It has created this incredible information overload for students. And we do see this in pass-fail rates, in completion rates, in success rates, with your passing or your dropping, failing, withdrawal rates. We see all of these kind of slowly eking up in academia. And one example for like this intro to The Catcher on the Rye, where this is just a short one-page note that J.D. Salinger opens the book with to the reader, and yet the text has changed so much that it's hard to find where to even start. And we are bombarding students with information because there's so much out there, and we've created these online homework platforms and systems and things that we want to help our students with, and ultimately we're giving them so much information that students don't know where to start. Instead of just giving them a text or something that they can read and pull out exactly what they need, we're giving them so much. And so I think in intentional design, one of the things that we have to constantly be asking is not only who you are as the instructor and how you can share this information, how you can facilitate learning, but also what do the students need. And the students might not need this cool new online tool. They might, depending on your subject area. They might actually just need a conversation, or maybe they need a bulleted handout. So our texts are getting busier and busier, and our homework systems are getting fuller and fuller of all these tricks, and maybe the student actually doesn't know how to navigate any of these tricks. Maybe they still don't have internet access at home. Maybe they don't have a home computer. Maybe they're doing it all from a cell phone and it doesn't work and they don't understand it. We're not really asking what are the vocabulary, the lexicons that our students are entering the classroom with. And the challenge that I want to put in intentional design is this element that I'm including in my course plan actually helping my students, or is it creating more challenges or barriers for them? So as you're creating your course plan, another element to think of is when you walk into your classroom, you are bringing something of yourself. Is it enthusiasm for this lesson? Or do you not like the lesson and you struggle with giving it every time, or maybe you're so bored with it, but you feel like you have to cover it that you just go in and do it? Are you giving yourself time to really feel comfortable with your lesson? Do you have that much time? If not, what are the other factors that are pulling away from your focus? Because when you walk into a classroom, what's happening within you personally is communicated in some way to your students. They sense your frustration, or they sense your boredom, or they sense your enthusiasm and your excitement, and they're really good guides to help navigate those things. So in intentional design, to begin with, rather than have layers of information, this classroom picture cracks me up. They've got information on the walls, and they've got collages, and they've got quotes on the ceiling even, and stacks of things on the tables. And to me, that's a little bit like higher ed today, where we're not even sure where to look. There's so much information out there. There's so many resources. Where do I go? And rather than try to include all of those, think about your students and think about yourself and think about, how can I deliver the cleanest, most straightforward content, and maybe have some supplements of these cool new resources or tools. The resources and tools are not going to help your students learn. You are, and how you propose or share the information that you're trying to get them to find. And as I said, students are great resources in this. So if you feel like a lesson isn't going well, admit your humanness. Ask in a classroom, and this works really well. Hey, do you guys understand this? Is this classroom, are you getting this concept? How would you explain it better? Is there some other way that we could talk about this? Have the students create work that helps inform you of how to teach the lesson. It's not about admitting that you don't know what you're doing, because you do know what you're doing, but it's about admitting that you're human and you're not your students. And maybe that's the disconnect. So be okay with that as you're planning your course. When you're developing it, I also want to encourage you to bridge out to the broader community. We can create beautiful things in our classrooms. We can create beautiful things, but we can't within the profession, but we can't all do it alone. And yes, you have something unique and incredible to contribute, but maybe your incredibleness is going to be made more amazing when you reach out and get help from others. So remember that you're not alone. Everything that you do as we plan this course is something that you can do with intention and not rush through it. There's no pressure to complete within a certain time frame. I want you to feel confident about every element of your course, every lesson, every assignment, every chosen text. So to begin with, reflection, personal reflection. These are the questions that I want you to ask yourself. Why are you doing this? What do you have to contribute to your course? What can you not give? What is too much for you, or challenging you, or putting pressure on you where maybe someone else could help fill that void? What do your students actually need? Do they need all of the things that you've been doing? And who is out there to support you in this work? Do you ask them for help? Do you rely on them? Do you talk to your instructional designers? Do you talk to your librarians? Do you talk to any other instructional support services? Do you connect with colleagues in your field of study online? So these are the first steps to intentional design. Really taking the time to start asking the questions of what do you want to do and how to best do it. I will help you with the how to best, but what do you want to do and how can you make it happen, and what do your students need are really key. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of where this idea is coming from and where we're going. And it is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple, and we will get there together.